There are times in life when forgetting isn't a loss, but an invitation. A half-open door beckoning us to cross into what we once knew, felt, or were. What if the mental fog that envelopes you isn't a symptom of exhaustion, but the veil before awakening? This book isn't just a guide. It's a ritual. A 7-chapter journey that will take you from the bewilderment of forgetting to the luminous clarity of remembering. Here you will discover that memory is not a static archive, but a living, vibrant field, capable of reconnecting with your purpose, your intuition, and your ancestral wisdom. Just 1 minute a day. That's all you need to get started. But that minute, if you do it with intention, can become the gateway to a more agile mind, a clearer heart, and a more conscious life. Prepare yourself. What you're about to remember isn't just information. It's your essence. Before starting this video, remember to subscribe and like. How many times have you walked into a room and completely forgotten what you were going to do? Or found yourself standing in front of someone whose name you know well, but just can't remember it? Those moments, as common as they are unsettling, make us think something inside us is shutting down. But what if I told you it isn't? That what we call forgetfulness isn't a glitch, but a signal. A silent invitation to awaken something that has been dormant for too long. Memory is not just a function of the brain. It's a living force, an extension of your consciousness, a sacred tool that connects your present with your past and your purpose. Since ancient times, sages have understood that remembering isn't simply bringing data to the forefront of your mind. It's reconnecting with what's essential, with who you are, with who you have been, with who you are destined to be. Today I want to take you on a journey, not a long or complicated one, just 1 minute. 1 minute a day that can change everything. Because what you're about to discover isn't a trick or a magic formula. It's a ritual. A conscious act that activates forgotten areas of your mind, that clears the fog that clouds your clarity, that restores your power to remember. Imagine that there is a garden inside you. A garden filled with memories, intuitions, ideas, emotions. Some are blooming. Others are covered by layers of dust, by the noise of the world, by stress, by fatigue. This 1-minute exercise is like opening a window to that garden. Let the light in. Breathe. Feel. Remember. And you don't need anything more than your presence, your intention, your breath. Because when you decide to dedicate a minute a day to this ritual, you're sending a clear message to your mind: I am ready to remember. And your mind responds. Not with words, but with connections, with clarity. With moments you thought were lost that now return like pieces of a puzzle that are beginning to make sense. This first step isn't just about improving your memory. It's about reconnecting with your history. It's about honoring your path. It's about recovering fragments of yourself that still resonate deeply. Because when you remember, you don't just bring something into the present. You bring yourself into the present. And that is true awakening. So today, as you listen to these words, I invite you to do something simple. Breathe. Close your eyes. Feel. And remember. Because oblivion isn't the end. It's the threshold. And you're standing right in front of it. They say that great changes don't always require great effort. Sometimes, a small gesture, repeated with intention, is enough for something profound to begin to transform. And that's exactly what happens when you decide to give your mind just 1 minute a day. A minute that isn't just any minute. It's a portal. A sacred space where memory, consciousness, and energy align to awaken what you thought was lost. This exercise isn't just another technique. It's an activation. A reconnection with who you are. You don't need any tools, technology, or complex rituals. Just you, your breath, and your will to remember. Because when you sit, close your eyes, and breathe deeply, something begins to happen. The air enters slowly, consciously, and with it, life. Oxygenation awakens dormant areas of the brain, calms the nervous system, and opens space for the mind to focus. It's as if each inhalation were a key and each exhalation a cleansing, an act of mental purification. And as you breathe, you visualize. Imagine that every forgotten thought, every trapped memory fragment, is released with the air that leaves your body. You feel the noise clear, the internal space open. And then you choose a memory. It doesn't matter which one. It can be a name, a sensation, an image from your childhood, or even an idea that once inspired you. You hold it in your mind without forcing it, just allowing your awareness to embrace it. And in that instant, the hippocampus, that region of the brain in charge of long-term memory, begins to activate. Neural connections awaken. The mind works not from effort but from openness. When you finish, you repeat an affirmation. Not as an empty phrase but as a decree. My mind is clear and capable of retrieving what I need at the perfect moment. And that phrase, spoken with intention, becomes an anchor. A seed that reinforces the process. Because you're not just remembering. You're reprogramming. You're training your mind to recognize that moment as a space of power, of clarity, of reconnection. This exercise, though brief, has a depth that is measured not in time but in impact. It's like lighting a candle in the midst of darkness. At first the light is dim. But with each day, with each practice, that light expands. And what once seemed lost begins to return. Not just memories but intuition, creativity, the ability to solve, to connect, to feel. Because memory isn't just remembering what was. It's recovering who you are. And when you decide to dedicate a minute a day to it, you're doing much more than exercising your mind. You're honoring your history. You're awakening your essence. You're crossing the portal. And on the other side, a clearer, more conscious, more alive version of yourself awaits you. It all begins with a minute. And that minute, if you do it with presence, can change everything. There's something you haven't been told about your memory. Something that goes beyond what modern science is only just beginning to understand. Because before laboratories, brain scanners, and theories about neuroplasticity existed, the ancients already knew that remembering was a sacred act. Not just a mental function but a profound connection to the eternal. In many ancient cultures, memory was seen as a bridge between worlds. Shamans, for example, didn't remember just to relive the past. They did so to travel, to recover fragments of wisdom that were scattered across invisible planes. Each memory was a spark of consciousness, a key that opened doors to hidden dimensions of the being. When they performed their rituals, they not only evoked images, but also awakened memories that the soul needed to evolve. And they weren't the only ones. In ancient Greece, Plato spoke of anamnesis, the idea that the soul at birth forgets everything it knows, and that life is a process of remembering. Not of learning but of reconnecting. According to him, remembering was returning to primordial wisdom, to that knowledge that already dwells within us, waiting to be activated. In the East, Taoist and Buddhist teachings offered another perspective. There, memory wasn't something to be retained but something to flow. The mind, like water, had to be free of blockages. And when those emotional or mental blocks were released, memory returned. Not as data but as clarity, as presence, as harmony. Today you're here listening to this because something inside you wants to remember. Not just names or dates, but sensations, purposes, fragments of yourself that have been hidden behind the noise of the world. And what I propose is simple, that you view your memory as an energetic field. Like a living network that connects your history with your essence. Every time you do this 1-minute exercise, you're not just oxygenating your brain. You're mobilizing internal energies. You're releasing tensions that have kept your mind trapped. You're allowing ancestral memories, yes, those you don't know how you know, to begin to surface. Because memory isn't just in the brain. It's in your body, in your energy, in your consciousness. And when you breathe, visualize, and connect with a memory, you're doing much more than remembering. You're activating forgotten circuits. You're awakening your lineage. You're reconnecting with what makes you unique. Because what you've experienced isn't lost. It's there waiting for you to call it forth. And what you haven't yet experienced is also there, waiting for you to remember. This chapter is a reminder. Your memory is sacred. Don't underestimate it. Don't reduce it to a list of data. It's your map, your compass, your bridge. And when you choose to cross it, what you find on the other side isn't just your past. It's your power. It's your truth. It's your soul remembering who it has been, who it is, and who it is meant to be. For centuries, memory was considered a mystery reserved for the wise, the mystics, and the poets. But today, science has begun to decipher what the ancients already intuited. That remembering is not just a biological function, but an energetic dance between consciousness, intention, and transformation. And at this intersection of the ancient and the modern, a word appears that changes everything: neuroplasticity. Your brain isn't a rigid machine. It's an expanding universe. Every thought, every emotion, every conscious breath has the power to shape it, to create new pathways, to strengthen connections, to awaken areas that have been dormant for years. And that means your memory isn't lost. It's waiting to be reactivated. When you practice the 1 minute a day exercise, you're doing much more than breathing. You're training your mind to reconnect, to regenerate, to remember. Because every time you inhale deeply, you're oxygenating your brain, stimulating the prefrontal cortex, calming the limbic system, and paving the way for the hippocampus, the guardian of your memories, to do its work. Science confirms it. Even in old age, the brain can create new synapses. It can adapt. It can flourish. And the most fascinating thing is that this process doesn't require hours of training or complex techniques. It only requires intention, presence, consistency. A minute, a ritual. That minute becomes an internal laboratory. In it, your mind reorganizes. Neural connections are strengthened. The pathways of forgetting are deactivated. And the pathways of remembering are illuminated. It's as if you were turning on lights in previously dark hallways. And in those hallways, images, sensations, and ideas you thought were lost begin to appear. But there's something else. Something that science is just beginning to explore. Because you're not just remembering facts. You're remembering emotions. And those emotions, when consciously activated, have the power to heal, to liberate, to transform. Emotional memory runs deep. It's tied to your identity, your decisions, your purpose. And when you awaken it, you don't just recover information. You recover power. This chapter is an invitation to view your mind as a garden. A garden that can be cultivated, watered, and illuminated. And every minute you dedicate to the exercise is a seed. A seed that, over time, becomes clarity, focus, and intuition. Because neuroplasticity isn't just a theory. It's a door. And you hold the key. So the next time you sit down to practice, remember this. You're doing science. You're doing magic. You're doing memory. And you're doing it from the most powerful place there is, your own consciousness. Because when you choose to remember, you're choosing to evolve. And that minute, that simple minute, can be the beginning of a new mind. An awakened mind. A free mind. There are memories that aren't just forgotten. They're hidden. They're covered with layers of unresolved emotions, with heavy silences, with wounds that were never named. And when we talk about memory, we can't ignore that what we remember is intimately linked to what we feel. Because memory isn't just an archive of facts. It's also the echo of our deepest emotions. Many of the blocks we feel when trying to remember don't come from a lack of ability, but from the presence of pain. From moments our minds decided to store deep inside to protect us. But what is stored without healing turns into fog, into confusion, into oblivion. And that's why this 1 minute a day exercise not only activates your cognitive memory, it also taps into your emotional memory. And that's where the real transformation begins. When you breathe deeply and connect with a memory, you're not just bringing an image into the present. You're touching an emotion. Perhaps a forgotten joy. Perhaps a sadness that still hurts. Perhaps a feeling you didn't know was still alive inside you. And in that instant, you have a unique opportunity, the opportunity to heal. The opportunity to look at that memory with a clear mind and an open heart. The opportunity to transform it. Because every time you remember consciously, you are rewriting your story. You are changing the way that memory lives in you. And that has a profound impact. Not only on your memory but on your well-being, your energy, your ability to move forward. The exercise then becomes a ritual of liberation, of integration, of emotional alchemy. Imagine that each exhalation is an offering. That with each breath you are letting go of what you no longer need. That you are letting go of the weight of what once hurt you, to remain only with the learning, the strength, the clarity. And in doing so your mind clears. Your body lightens. Your memory opens. This chapter is a reminder that remembering can hurt too. But that pain, if embraced with presence, becomes medicine, wisdom, power. Because what once broke you can also be what rebuilds you. And when you choose to look at your memories with love, with compassion, with intention, You are doing much more than healing the past. You are liberating your future. So the next time you practice this exercise, don't run away from what you feel. Allow yourself to remember. Allow yourself to feel. Allow yourself to transform. Because in that moment you are doing something sacred. You are reconciling with yourself. And that reconciliation is the beginning of a freer, brighter, more personal memory. A memory that not only remembers what was, but honors what you are, and what you are ready to be. There's something that happens when you begin to remember with intention. You don't just recover images from the past, you also begin to perceive possibilities you didn't see before. It's as if, by activating your memory, an invisible door opens to something greater. Something that isn't in your history but in your destiny. Because memory, when awakened from consciousness, doesn't just look back. It also projects forward. Quantum physics speaks of a field of infinite possibilities. A space where everything that can be already exists in the form of potential. And you, with your mind, with your intention, with your memory, can access that field. You can tune into futures that have not yet occurred, but that already vibrate within you. Because remembering isn't just bringing something into the present. It's activating a frequency. It's aligning with a version of yourself that already knows, that already feels, that is already ready. When you do the 1 minute a day exercise, you're entering that field. You're using your memory as a bridge. Like an antenna that captures not only what was, but what can be. And that changes everything. Because you begin to remember ideas you haven't yet experienced. Goals you haven't yet fulfilled. Sensations that come from a place you can't name, but that you recognize as yours. The mystics knew it. The Hermeticists, the Taoists, the Buddhists, they all spoke of memory as a tool of transcendence. As a means to access hidden dimensions of being. And today you are doing the same. You are using your breath, your visualization, your intention, to reconnect with that part of you that is not limited by time or logic. A part that remembers what has not yet happened. That feels what has not yet been experienced. And that's the most powerful thing about this exercise. It doesn't just help you remember names, dates, or moments. It helps you remember who you can be. It connects you with your potential, with your vision, with your purpose. Because when memory is activated from the soul, it becomes a guide, a compass, a map. So every time you practice, don't do it just to recover what you lost. Do it to discover what awaits you. To tune into the future that already vibrates within you. To remember the path your consciousness is ready to travel. Because memory is not just an archive. It's a door. And you, by crossing it, are entering the space where everything is possible. Where memory becomes creation. And where you, by remembering, begin to be reborn. Everything you've heard so far converges in this moment. Because no matter how much wisdom you've received, how many techniques you've learned, or how many truths have resonated within you, if you don't turn them into practice, they vanish like smoke. The true power of this exercise lies not in its complexity, but in its consistency. Just 1 minute a day. A brief but sacred ritual. And that ritual, if you do it with devotion, can transform your mind, your energy, and your life. It's not about doing it when you remember. It's about doing it because you've decided to remember. Because you've understood that your memory isn't a luxury, it's an essential tool. And like everything essential, it requires care, presence, and repetition. Establishing a routine is like planting a seed in fertile soil. Every day you practice, that seed grows. And what seemed like a simple exercise becomes a space for reconnection. An internal altar where your mind aligns, your body relaxes, and your consciousness expands. Do it when you wake up, when the world is still silent and your mind is fresh. Or do it before bed, when the day has closed and you can integrate what you've experienced. But do it with intention. Not as a chore, but as an act of love for yourself. Because every time you breathe, visualize, and affirm, you are remembering that you have the power to transform, to heal, to create. And if one day you feel like you don't have time, remember this. It's not time that's lacking, it's the decision. A minute is nothing on the clock, but it can be everything in your evolution. That minute can be the moment you recover an idea, an emotion, a vision. The instant your mind clears and your purpose is revealed. Enhance that minute with gratitude, with reading, with movement, with silence. Surround it with habits that nourish your mind and soul. And above all, don't rush. Transformation doesn't happen through pressure, but through surrender, through conscious repetition, through presence. This chapter isn't a closure. It's an opening. It's a reminder that you are the guardian of your memory, that every day you can choose to remember, not just what you experienced, but what you are destined to experience. And that minute, that small ritual, can be the gateway to a clearer mind, a fuller life, and a deeper connection with yourself. Because in the end, remembering isn't about looking back. It's about looking inward. And when you do it consistently, with intention and with love, you don't just recover what you forgot. You rediscover what's always been there, waiting to be awakened. Your memory, your power, your truth. Now you know. Memory is not a luxury of youth nor a privilege of the wise. It's a sacred right, an innate ability waiting to be awakened. You've gone through 7 chapters, each one a stepping stone toward rediscovering yourself. You've breathed, visualized, felt, healed. You've remembered. But this journey doesn't end here. Because remembering isn't about returning to the past. It's about consciously reclaiming the present. It's about looking toward the future with the certainty that you have everything you need within you: clarity, intuition, purpose. Every minute you dedicate to this exercise will be an offering to your mind, an act of love for your history, and a declaration of power toward your destiny. Don't underestimate the ritual. Don't underestimate the memory. Because when you remember who you are, everything else begins to align. Your memory has awakened. And with it, the world you are destined to create. As always, if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to subscribe and leave a like. See you in the next video.